Hello, Knights fans. Welcome to the 2015 Knights Baseball Roundup Wrap-Up Show.
Very well said. Very well said. There you go.
Thank you. Took me a couple times. Just kidding. Took me once. Season wrap show. We made it, Gary. We are here. It is incredibly, it's June. Things are starting to wrap up in the academic year, the athletic year especially, and a lot to talk about today. Before we get started, I just wanted to, apologize to our regular viewers for last week. We had a really tremendous show we had set up, and I want to apologize specifically to Pat and Logan, Pat McClure and Logan Fratty. They were excellent on camera, really great answers. Got a nice back and forth with them, but season's over. They've all gone home. So you didn't get to see that, none of the outtakes. It was just basically us pantomiming here on camera. If you want to watch that, you shouldn't.
What
anyway,
he was trying to say is there was no sound, and therefore we couldn't do it.
Miming, pantomime. I'm joined, of course. I'm Ryan Uhlich. I'm joined by the head of the FDU baseball program, Gary Puccio, and we have a lot to talk about today. But before we get to it, you have an alumni question of the week to kick us off.
Yes, this is from John Bittman, who asked me the other day about when do we plan to play the alumni game in the fall of 2015. And John, right now we're down to a couple of dates. It looks like it's either going to be the first Saturday in October or the third Saturday in October. And as soon as we have a more definitive date, that'll go up online. Obviously, to all the alumni, we want you here. It's always a great day. I think we had like 25 people here last year, 25 alums. So come on out and support the Knights baseball program and the Alumni Day event.
I think next year, whoever's going to be hosting the show, we should just rename it the John Bittman Alumni Question of the Week, because I feel like he's the go-to.
Well, John's always the guy. Red and McGarry and John are always the guys we rely on. Right. So, they obviously help, and they're obviously very involved, so there's nothing wrong with that. And obviously, John's got enough things named after him. He's got the first pitch dinner named after him. I think that's pretty good.
It'd be a little bit much to give him two things. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to take a little piece of our interview that didn't air last week and just ask you about, the final day against Mount St. Mary's. It was a tremendous game, tremendous circumstances, do or die situation, Mount St. Mary's or FDU, winner goes on. It's also senior day. You have a ton of people here, a ton of family, 8 graduating seniors to honor. It was a long ceremony and an emotional one at that. And the Knights go down 4 in the first inning. Logan Fratty goes the distance, and 8 scoreless innings after that. The team fights. As all season long, they continue to fight. They show that fight. And I just wanted to ask you basically what that day was for you in the whole sense of the word, and what that victory meant for you and your team and your program.
Yeah, when you're down 4-0 in the first inning, you don't think good things are going to happen for the day. And obviously it was a winner-take-all game, so I really talked to the guys about regrouping and just staying tough. And I told them, I said, all year long we've scored 5 runs or more almost every game. So there's 4 is not good enough. I said that's what I told them, and somehow I don't know if I believed it at the time, but it seemed to work, and they seemed to rally, and then Ryan Brennan hit that bases loaded double to clear the bases in the bottom of the 8th to change a 5-4 game into an 8-4 game, and of course we broke the 4-4 tie with Pat. And Pat had told me in the locker room, I know we talked about this last week, that didn't air, but Pat had talked to me in the locker room before the game and said, Coach, we're not losing this game, don't worry about it. It's just not happening, we're not losing this game. And sure enough, 4-4 tie, and Pat McClaw steps up and hits a big one, hits a big home run to give us the lead, and we never looked back. And, I'll tell you, I don't know if any of I'm sure some of the alumni fans saw the game on NEC Front Row in the playoffs, and the guy in the playoffs, Zach, asked me after the game about backing into the playoffs, and that really I was trying to be nice to him, but I was pretty annoyed, to be honest, because I don't know how a team that take away the Bryant series, we won 3 out of 4 of every series, the last 4 series that we had to win. Absolutely. In order to get in. And the last weekend, obviously against Mount, they only had to win 2. We had to win 3, and we did that. So I wouldn't call that backing in. I'd call that marching in, and I'm very proud of what these guys did. It's the second time in 4 years for those seniors to make it, and yeah, they're a special group. It was a very tough day from that point of view, as far as seeing the seniors knowing that they're all leaving, and these are guys that Antti Calisi's pitched 100 times in this program, and Eric Snyder is the all-time conference winner, and Joe Borelli's been in my rotation for 4 straight years, and Ryan Mcgrath. You can say something about every one of them. They're just great kids, an honor to coach, and I'm so happy that they leave here the way they came here, which was as winners.
Absolutely. I can go in a bunch of different directions, but I'll choose this one, and that is, yes, Pat hit the go-ahead home run to break the 4-4 deadlock. That's why I was talking to Pat and Logan, two of your future captains next year, and you can see why they're captains. They showed and displayed that leadership on camera with me, very well spoken, and I love that little tidbit that Pat in the locker room was so fired up and so confident, because that's the way these guys have been playing. Aside from Bryant, that one weekend, two-time defending champions. You know.
And even the Bryant series, obviously we had two games that we probably should have won and kind of gave back. And when you talk about Pat and Logan, the other thing that you got to realize about Pat and Logan is I'm not a guy that picks captains based on yes people. I mean, Pat McClure was not a big fan of mine when he was a freshman here, and everybody knows that. And he's grown to tolerate me, I guess, over the years. But the reason I picked the two of them is and Shane, because they have a great pulse of what the team, they get great sense of what's going on with the team, and they're more than open and more than honest and more than willing, maybe too much so sometimes, to walk into my office and tell me that, this is no good or that's. But I just feel that's why we have great chemistry on the team, is because I got leaders who keep problems at a minimum. Molehills don't get to grow into mountains. And I really credit Pat more than anyone, but, Pat and Shane last year and Eric for doing that. And then Logan's definitely comes from the same mold. So as far as leadership, I couldn't be in better hands next year. This team's got great leaders next year.
It's a really great way to look at it, and I think the team is definitely in good hands next year. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that I asked you last week, and I asked Pat as well. Pat was a part of the 2012 freshman class, your first recruiting class here, that made the playoffs. And I asked both of you to compare the two teams. The two playoff teams, similarities and differences. What stands out for you?
We had a lot more depth in 2012 than we had this year. I mean, I think 2012 too, we snuck up on people. The FDU hadn't been good for a long time, and I think people took us for granted. Before they knew it, we were like 9-3 in the league. So we got off to a great start, and we had Ryan Kresge, who's one of the greatest hitters I've ever coached, and Michael Eisen, who just refuses to lose. So you had some elements on that team that were phenomenal, mixed in with a great group of freshmen, and those great group of freshmen became those seniors. They became the Ryan Kresges and the Michael Eisens this year. And we had another great group of freshmen like Bobby Romano that helped make it very similar to the 2012 team.
I want to go into the momentum that you've carried into the tournament. Now, that the wording of it, backing into the tournament, couldn't be further from the truth in my mind, and of course you agree. You started the conference season 1-6. To do what you did after that, plus 500 ball, that's not backing into anything. You had one slip up against two-time defending champions, Bryant. It's excusable there, and these guys fought, and you have to win 3 out of 4 at home against Mount. You do just that. Now, the momentum of that emotional win and the way in which you won takes you into the playoffs, and that's how I wanted to talk to you last week about how the team was, and obviously the team was ready. They were fired up. Quietly confident is what I got from the players, but you take that into game one. You're facing those two-time defending champions who you got swept by the last 2 times you faced them, last 2 series you faced against them on Thursday. And what do? You go and beat them. Joe Flagg twirls a gem, and the team comes up big when it counts. And it lasted. It was a close game until the later innings, but nonetheless, picking up a huge win. So walk me through that day.
Yeah, it was incredible, the first game of the tournament, playing Bryant. We're playing the pitcher of the year, and Kyle Wilcox. And, like you said, it was a close game till about the 5th or 6th inning. And then I think it was Bobby Romano with the bases loaded, tripled in 3 runs to make the game go from 2-1 us to 5-1 us. And then Shane followed with a base hit to make it 6-1. And those all came with 2 out. In fact, I think that inning started 2 out, nobody on, if I remember right. And we scored 5 runs out of the inning. It was incredible. And, that might have been the best game I've ever seen us play in my time here as the head coach of the Knights. Dylan Spray made a phenomenal catch, turned it into a double play on a ball into right center field. Shane Siebler caught a ball in right, fired a strike to third base to nail the guy trying to go from second to third. We turned 4 double plays in that game, made some incredible catches, and got timely hits. And Joe Flagg threw a gem, like you said. Joe Flack's stepping up and starting to be where, Joe Flack and Logan Frady are pretty good 1-1A for next year. I mean, they're great. I mean, obviously we lose Ryan, who had 7 wins for us, Mcgrath, and he was terrific too. But the bottom line is you got to love what they did that first game. I mean, someone came up to me and told me afterwards, they said they thought that was the biggest win in my career here as far as FDU. And I told them I thought it was right up there, but I thought the biggest was when we clinched the playoffs the first time because we hadn't done it in so long. This team, one thing I'll give these guys as seniors is they understood how to win. They won as freshmen, they understood how to win, and they wanted to win, and they wanted to win badly. And I think that showed up that last game against Mount St. Mary's. And I think it showed up the first game against Bryan. And, for the first time as the coach at FDU, I went to bed Thursday night believing that we had a solid shot at going to the NCAA tournament. And I can't tell you the last time FDU felt that way, and we really did. I mean, we really felt that way. I think everyone felt that way, and that's what makes baseball such a great game. We go from that to never scoring again the rest of the tournament. I mean, you can't explain that. You really can't. But you know what? We were one game away from going to a championship game. That's pretty damn good. Pretty good season for a team that was picked to finish last.
Like the words out of my mouth. Team picked to finish last in the NEC, goes to the tournament, takes on the two-time defending champions, defeats them in game one. Can't discredit also Ryan Mcgrath out of the bullpen. We knew he was going to be out of the bullpen. 3 scoreless innings as well to solidify that. Those are some massive innings against the two-time defending champions. And again, like you can't predict baseball, it's you're going against the NEC Pitcher of the Year, and you take them down.
Yep.
Then you go into Friday and Saturday, and first you get Sacred Heart, and then you get Bryan again. And again, like you said, unable to score any runs, but there were situations. But again,
the Sacred Heart game, I think we got down 4-0, and I might have pressed the panic button a little early. I yanked Borelli kind of early. I think it was 4-0 in the third, and I pulled him. And maybe that was more what I should have done if it was an elimination game. But obviously we still had a game to play with, and obviously that move didn't work out because we ended up losing 10-0. So it wasn't exactly the smartest move I've made as the coach here. But I probably reacted a little too soon in that game. And then the last game, Logan was pitching well. It was 2-0. They had one unearned run. It was down 2-0. And John Mullen, who's one of their best hitters, good hitters also get breaks, and that's just the way baseball works. And he hit a 2-strike pitch that he kind of just reached out for and hit a little blooper into center field that drove in 2 runs and changed the game to 4-0, and it was all downhill after that. So, what are you going to do? I mean, one of our problems all year was depth. And I mean, that's one of the things I've said, that we have a smaller roster than everybody else. That's hopefully been corrected. Mr. Langford said we can go to 30 next year. That's going to help a lot, so that we have a few more arms available to us. Obviously, we have limited scholarships in the baseball program. All those things, make it a little harder for us to be successful. But the thing that I'm going to hang my hat on is we've been successful. 2 of the last 4 years we've been in the playoffs. The only teams that have gone more than that are Sacred Heart and Bryan. Those are the 2 teams we lost to.
All right, well, that'll transition me into my next question. I do want to add, I think that it is tremendous that the senior class, the outgoing senior class, as you said, they know how to win. And it's good that they can impart that on the younger members of your team. But you still have Logan and Pat captain along with Shane next year, guys that also know how to win.
I just want to add that, like Bobby Romano, you're talking about a freshman who, incredible pressure, first playoff game in college, a freshman, bases loaded, down, up 2-1, and he triples in 3 runs. And then even the last game, we were down I think 6-0 at the time, and he worked out an at-bat from an 0-2 count that he worked out a walk where he fouled off a bunch of it. This kid's going to be a player, and that's what makes you believe in the program, is you see Joe Flack as a sophomore, and Logan Frady and Ryan Brennan and Matt McCann, and you sit there, those guys are sophomores. They're going to be here for 2 more years, and Bobby will be here for 3 more years. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff happening here. There really is.
Absolutely. Matt McCann finishing the season at 300 even batting average has been tremendous all season. So much, obviously, a lot of positives to take from the season. But I want to key in on that, the lack of depth you talked about. Now, the lineup, your hitters, I guess, your position players' depth, not as bad as your pitching depth. We knew that going in. High hopes for the lineup. But the pitching depth was a bit untested with two pitchers already ruled out in the preseason, out for the season. You go in with Ryan Mcgrath, who you always talk about only pitching 10 innings before this season, coming into the starting rotation. Look how he turned out, et cetera, et cetera. Amazingly, despite that, knowing you had 2 season-ending injuries right away, and then you had Logan and Flack with injuries coming into the season, minor ones, but just the fact that they all remained healthy for the entire season and what they did, how impressed are you with your essentially your starting rotation?
Yeah, and you said he remained healthy, but Ryan Mcgrath was in the training room about an hour every week before the game, before he'd pitch. Just
healthy to me,
just to get treatment, to make sure he could go out there and last for a few innings. And listen, Joe Borelli, everybody knows, is my favorite player. He always has been. That pitching rotation, there are 4 kids that gave me all they got all the time, and that's, as a coach, that's all you can ask for. And Ryan Mcgrath was probably the unsung hero of this team, stepping up with 7 wins at like you said, 10 innings pitched in the past, and winning 7 games for us this year. And he just did a phenomenal job, and like you said, came in the playoff game through 3 scoreless innings. As soon as he pitched that first inning in the 7th, I knew we were winning this game. It's a pretty good feeling to know that. You got that depth, and that's what was different in the playoffs, was I was able to shuffle Mcgrath into that role, and that helped us win the first game against Bryan. And that's where the depth will help, having more pitches. We definitely need more arms. It definitely will help us.
It's incredible, too, because how versatile he's been, I guess, in his entire tenure here. Ryan played the field the first couple of years, then he goes into a relief role last year, or 10 innings, as you say. But this year, he was the anchor of the staff, you would say, in the beginning when Flack and Logan were rehabbing from their injuries. He's the anchor. He's pitching phenomenally. We talked about him a lot. We had him on the show as well in week 3. And then obviously for a guy who's only pitched 10 innings before that, obviously you run into a bit of a wall. But then he goes in the bullpen, he pitches as he did last week.
Yeah, and I think what else people look by, because Logan pitched such a great game after being down 4-0 with Mount on that Sunday game and winning. But we had to win the second game of the doubleheader on Saturday, or the Sunday's game wasn't going to mean anything. And we had our backs against the wall. And Ryan Mcgrath went out there and threw a gem, and we won 4-2. He went the whole way, and did a super job for us. So, he's. I use the term he wins ugly, and I've told him that, so it's nothing I'm not telling him. But, there's aches and pains during the course of the game. But in the end, the kid's a winner. The kid's a bulldog. The kid's just a trooper. And he didn't pitch a lot of innings early on. We signed him to be the closer originally. That was the whole idea. And the reason he didn't pitch a lot early on was because Shane was hurt for a whole year, and he had to play right field for us. The kid was a team player all 4 years. He was only here 3 years because he's brilliant, too. On top of everything else, he's like a 3.95 student and graduated in 3 years instead of 4. If he was healthy, he'd probably be back for 4th year, but because of his back and because of all the injuries, he had told me that this was going to be it. And boy, what a way to go out. He's definitely the unsung hero of the team.
Now let's move on to your lineup. Now, you had a solid recruiting class to back up to boost some of the depth for the position players, but the lineup was more or less unchanged. I guess the only difference was that Bobby Romano slid into major playing time at third base. Compared to your expectations before the season, how do you think things turned out for your offense?
I thought for the most part, again, we stopped hitting those last 2 games. I'm not quite sure why, but I thought the offense did a nice job this year. And I think what was true about our offense as opposed to a lot of other teams is we didn't have one guy. We didn't have one guy stepping up. Riley had almost a 300 season, and Pat McClure hit 4 home runs, Joel hit 5, and Ryan Brennan had 20-something RBIs. We got it from a little bit of everywhere. Shane at the bottom of the lineup helping us out. So I felt from top to bottom, our lineup was solid. It wasn't a phenomenal lineup. It didn't have these couple of big bats, which would obviously help, but it had guys that you can always knew were going to give you a good at-bat, and they did a great job. I got no gripes with them. They did a great job, and they definitely learned to hit when it counted, and that was something we didn't do well in the past, was hit when it counted. I could count on one hand the year before how many 2-out hits we got to driving runs. This year it happened like crazy.
I remember every week we almost talked about at least one of them being in a big spot. Continuing on with the offense is 3 recognized for 3 all-conference awards, 3 second-team awards, all position players. That would be second baseman Dylan Sprague, Joel Roman, and Riley Moonen, all deserved of the award. Just tell me what that means for your program, what it means for those kids. Joel led the team with 5 home runs. Dylan and Riley had timely hits time and time again, really got on base a ton. Tell me what they did for your program and your team this year.
Yeah, well, Friday's game against Mount St. Mary's, the first game of that series, Riley made a phenomenal catch out in center field as always. And the Mount St. Mary's coach used to tell me every year that he loved Riley as a center fielder. And I know he said something to Riley after the game about, I'm real glad that I don't have to watch you out there anymore, because Riley's obviously taken away more than his share of hits. And he's just a phenomenal player, great center fielder, great kid to coach too, just a great kid. Joel, Joel's money in the bank when it comes to swinging that bat. He just real good at it, and he does a real good job for us. 5 home runs, and what do you call Dylan? I can't say enough about Dylan, because Dylan's defense. First year Dylan had to play short again because of injuries, and he led the team in errors the year he played short, and he and I had our moments. He was a freshman, and it was a little hard to reach him, as most freshmen are, and second year, sophomore year, he moved over to second base, which was his natural position. And his defense was so much better at second base. It was incredible. It helped him relax. As a hitter, the kid's been consistently solid for us since day one. He's been a solid 280 to 285 hitter, gets some clutch home runs, drives in runs, does everything you could ask out of a player. So very happy for all three of those guys. It's well-deserved. Joel, as you know, got the Coach's Award this year because, here's a kid that lost the starting job at third base to Bobby Romano as far as playing defense and became the DH and just took it under his belt to say, hey, I'm going to be the best I can be at this, and he was.
Transitioning over to pitching now. I want to recognize 3 relievers of yours that have reached program heights in appearances, specifically. Anthony Calisi came in for 2 appearances over the playoff weekend. Yona Perline got in there for 1. Snyder got in there for 1, I believe. And all 3 of them are in the top 3 all-time in the Knights history program record. Calisi's at 100, Yona's at 96, and Eric Snyder's at 93. So I wanted to ask you what it has meant to have them for all 4 years coming out of the bullpen. And obviously I want to touch on Snyder specifically, so if you want to transition into talking about Snyder, what he's meant, because obviously he's leaving as the NEC's all-time leader in saves, obviously the FDU all-time leader in saves, and I know he sputtered toward the end a little bit because maybe he was just used a lot, but a tremendous season. So those 3 guys.
Yeah, that's almost 300 appearances between the 3 of them. It's incredible. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
7 away from 300.
Right, it's mind-boggling when you think about it. I always tell guys that you try to get a positive out of a negative, and obviously losing that last game, we knew we were going to be going home, and I kind of held Calisi for the last inning just so that we knew he was at 99 appearances so he could get his 100th appearance, so that, again, taking something positive out of a negative situation, and it was a great feeling for him, I'm sure, to reach 100 appearances. He didn't have a great year this year, and that's why he didn't have quite as many appearances as he had in the past. Same thing with Yona. Yona, people don't realize that bridge from the 8th. You got to have a special personality to be an 8th inning reliever because you have no room for error. Because if you get in trouble, they're bringing in a closer every time. So you don't get to finish your inning a lot of times. You give up a hit or something, and you got to hand the ball over to the closer. And it doesn't mean the coach doesn't have confidence in you. It's just that you have, there's a reason the other guy's the closer. And you got to go back out there the next day and do the same exact thing and maybe get pulled again. And Yona was terrific at that. He had a great personality for it. He was a trooper. He gave me everything he got. And, those 3 kids, when they came in as freshmen, they made the difference. Yona didn't give up an extra base hit his freshman year until the last weekend of the season. Calisi led the league in appearances that year. And Snyder set a save record that year with 12 saves. So they're the guys that kind of helped make the program go up to the next step. And when you talk about 2 kids to replace next year, Riley Moon in center field is no easy guy to replace, and obviously looking down at that bullpen and not seeing Snyder down there is going to give me some pains because as you said, I overused him this year. There's no doubt about that, and if I didn't use him as much as I did at the beginning of the year, we wouldn't have been where we were. And I give him all the credit in the world because he just hung in there, and at the end it was obvious he didn't have the goomp on his fastball that he had earlier in the season and stuff, and he was definitely a tired pitcher, but right, but if he hadn't done that, we wouldn't be where we were. And when you have 31 career saves and you've had seasons of 12 saves and 9 saves and done the things that he's done for this program, he's the all-time save leader of the program and the all-time save leader in the history of the school. He's co-male athlete of the year at FDU. It don't get better than Eric Snyder, and I've been doing this 34 years. That's the best closer I've ever had.
All right, well said. Now, this is a impromptu question, but I'm not going to ask you for the best game of the season because you could say Sunday do or die against Matt. You could say game 1 against Bryant last week. I'm going to ask you what you think the turning point of the season was. You started the conference slate 1-6. At some point, where was that moment? Was it an at-bat, an inning, or a game itself that turned the season around?
I think it was at Central Connecticut when we had to go win 3 out of 4. To just make sure we had a chance of even being in the race. And we had won 2 out of 3, and Logan took the ball that Sunday and made sure we won. And looking back, I told you, Logan did that at Wagner, Logan did that at Central, Logan did that against Mount St. Mary's. And he seemed to be the stopper for us. And that was I think the most important game of the year, or the game that gave us a chance to make us realize we have a chance, was when we won the 3 out of 4 from Central. So I look at that as the turning point.
All right, there you go. Your Sunday starter. Again, Central did it all season. Truly tremendous season. A little hampered by injury bug, but a lot of people were. I'll leave it to you for the final thoughts. This can be about an overriding view of the season. It could be thoughts about the future of the program, where you're going. Or you can just talk about me and how great I am and how much I'm going to be missed.
I will
but
talk about that.
I'll leave it to you because this is your show and this is the Knights Baseball Roundup. So what do you guys?
Yeah, well, the first thing obviously is, and I said this last week too, and I'm going to keep saying it. People got to forget the old FDU baseball program. The current FDU baseball program is a very competitive program. We've been in contention for the playoffs 3 of the 5 years I've been here. We've made it two of the last 4 years. I think that's a pretty solid record. No one's going to make it every year except Sacred Heart and Bryant. They seem to, but at least, you're not expected to make it every year. You want to be competitive every year, and I think for the most part we've done that. And I really believe that the makings are there to continue to do that again next year. Again, baseball's a game of breaks. If you don't get the breaks, get a 2-out hit, or you don't get a 2-out hit, it makes a difference in how your season goes. And as you get more confidence by winning, that helps. And the fact that we got kids coming back now that have playoff experience again, I think that's a very important part of the success of the program. And I've been blessed. The kids I have here, they've never caused me problems, or we never have issues. They're good students. They're great citizens for the college, and they just make me very proud. I'm very proud to be their coach. And it's just been a great run for the last 4 years, and hopefully there's a lot of years left. As for you, there are no years left. There's not even any days left, because this is the end of the road for you. And
my final day.
This is it. And I just want to say you have done a phenomenal job as the host of this show. And I think anyone who has stopped you during games, I know you've been stopped many times at the games when you've been announcing, or you've been hanging out here with my parents and alumni alike that have told you what a terrific job you've done. And I just echo those sentiments.
Thank you, Gary. I've been really proud to have been following the program, calling the games a couple years ago. Obviously, we haven't had many games, but they will be back next year. I'm sure of that, because off camera to our right, the bleachers are getting underway, and we'll probably have NEC Front Row back for our alumni and our fans. Just thank you for dealing with all my outtakes and stupidity. I hope to be back for many a game here at the Nine Only Family Baseball Complex. It's been my pleasure for everyone that's been watching.
We expect you back too, and obviously you got that award this year as well, and that was well earned and well deserved, and all good things for you ahead. We're definitely going to miss you here.
I appreciate that. Thank you. If anyone knows of an employer looking for an employee, you send them my way, or you give them my information anyway. Contact Gary. He'll talk to me. But I have confidence. Knights fans, thanks for sticking with us this entire season. Of course, it's drizzling for us right now, but FDUKnights.com is your home for Knights baseball updates, news, information as we head into this off season. At FDU Knights on Twitter. Same goes for Instagram, I believe, and Facebook. Keep tabs on the program. A lot's changing, a lot of turnover, a little bit, and yes, and you're looking at the microphone like you want to say one more thing.
Just to all the alumni, the best is yet to come.
There you go. We'll end it on that. The best is yet to come. The Knights picked to finish last. Did not walk backwards into the playoffs. They fought hard, got there, defeated the two-time defending champions. A lot can be said for this really tremendous season. And congratulations to the outgoing seniors, of course, as well. Knights fans, stick around this entire offseason. You have the alumni game in the fall, and after that, before you know it, it'll be 2016 baseball season first pitch dinner, the John Bittman first pitch dinner. For Ryan Uhlich, for Gary, this is the Knights Baseball Roundup season wrap edition. Thanks for watching all season long, and have a great summer.